I don't want to take the camera on that one. All right. I don't know why that went that way. But let's take a look here. I do a lot of writing on Substack. I do a lot of writing on Medium and TikTok. I do my videos, and I got a lot of response lately. I think it's up to 22,000 responses on a text. You do TikTok, you do a little text, and they put a little music or sound with it. It went out, and it, atheists came out the woodwork, which was great. They blew it up for me. God bless them. So I went over, I answered directly that question, but you can only put so many characters in there. So I like, to give a full response. I make my own videos. Sometimes I name them. Sometimes I say, someone, atheist so-and-so, or I actually use whatever surname they're using, whatever. So, but this is one of my responses. So let's see how this go.
Abiogenesis and you. Here, an atheist writes, there are a lot of as yet unexplained yet observed phenomena. The difference is that the lack of explanation results in inquiry through the scientific process rather than pulling answers out of a hat. So let us respond. You are confusing two different things.
So that's their statement. Let me go over again. This is their statement.
There are a lot of as yet unexplained yet observed phenomena. The difference is that the lack of explanation results in inquiry through the scientific process rather than pulling answers out of a hat.
Now, then I say, so let us respond.
So let us respond.
Now, see, there's a lot of, they like the story. They like the mystery. They like the narrative without the science behind it, because just like any other false religion, atheism, evolutionists, abiogenesis, they like the narrative, but they don't have the scientific formulations. They don't have the scientific evidence. We don't go with proof, evidence of what they're speaking of. So they say, well, given time, or we prefer this over your God. Okay. They prefer no God, even though the evidence that they claim is not there leads you to believe that it is, we are engineered. We didn't come from happenstance. All right. So let's continue.
You are confusing two different things. Inquiry is good.
Again, now, so this is my response. I've written this out. I'm going to put it on Substack in a little bit.
You are confusing two different things. Inquiry is good. I welcome inquiries. But abiogenesis and macroevolution are not unexplained observations. They are explanations that have already failed their own tests. When a model makes predictions and every core prediction collapses, the scientific response is not keep the model and wait. The scientific response is the model is wrong.
They cannot, they will not surrender. Ego, we're in the Stone Age, or we're reading a Stone Age book. God is eternal. That's why his words are eternal. So what God spoke, they don't have a time date expiration. But when you're dealing with the atheists, and they were, people that want to live outside of God's autonomy, in their open system instead of God's closed system, this is what you get. And they keep the system going, even though and this is the foundation of science, the scientific method is their Bible, is their way of doing things. Okay. Whether you're a biologist, whether you're a behavior scientist, you're using the scientific method, which is going to be judged by others. They fail miserably, but they keep going because There's no other way they will even attempt, which I don't care. They can keep going, but it's about money, it's about power, and it's about lives. That's the problem when you have policy based on a myth of superiority. They think they're more superior because they're secular and they're above this religious people.
We are not dealing with a mystery that needs more time. We are dealing with a story that contradicts the data we already have. Prebiotic chemistry does not produce homochirality. It does not produce long, stable polymers in water. It does not produce concentrated building blocks. It does not survive UV and oxygen at the same time. It does not produce encoded information.
So because their model failed, their scientific model of how things should work, and they make their predictions, their predictions fall apart, but they must keep going because the other alternative is too hard to swallow. That outside this human realm, there is a spiritual world. Oh my goodness. We ain't talking about ghosts and goblins. We're talking about God and his angels and the devil and his. So they got a million trashy questions to ask you, but I put it in their lap. You explain to me your theory using your standard, the standard of scientific methods. What are you expecting to do? Well, it's been 1 billion years, so it could easily have. That's a story. That's a narrative. I'm not here for it. Bring it back. You have a scientific standard that you want to put on me and my God. I'm gonna take your scientific standard and put it on you and your religion, called atheism, called secularism, called abiogenesis and evolution. We're going to put you back in the bottle with the truth. But we know in the end, God wins. But the Antichrist and his kingdom is coming. We got to go through that intermediate period. So just like Stephen and others had to die to get to where they was going, we're going to have to live through hell to get where we're going. That's why, well, not only that, I don't believe in the pre-rapture, pre-tribulation rapture. I believe in the mid-tribulation rapture before the wrath. But let's go back over this a little again.
We are not dealing with a mystery that needs more time. We are dealing with a story that contradicts the data we already have. Prebiotic chemistry does not produce homochirality. It does not produce long, stable polymers in water. It does not produce concentrated building blocks. It does not survive UV and oxygen at the same time. It does not produce encoded information.
The encoded information cracks their bubble, but they cannot surrender. It's a Nazi is a Nazi, a communist is a communist. They will, they got to go down with the ship. It is better for them to rule in hell than to serve in heaven, and they are not giving up. But my job is to inform and to proclaim, is not to try to win them over. And that's a lot of people. I think we all tried it, but my purpose is standing on the wall and let them know trouble is coming.
That is not we lack answers. That is the proposed answer breaks down at every step.
Again, it's not that we lack answers, or they'll use it. Well, we just need more time. You had 150 years. The dirt's still there. And as you been digging down of the millions and millions of dollars that you have used, that have been given to you from taxpayer dollars, you have not come across anything that supports your data, supports your information. That is crucial.
That is not we lack answers. That is the proposed answer breaks down at every step.
At every step, they do not meet their mark. At every step, they are complete failures. And then they want to say, well, prove to me that there's a God. I don't have to prove to you. I walk by faith. You're walking by science. Therefore, your standard is scientific. So let's keep you to that standard.
The same applies to macroevolution. Mutations degrade genomes. Waiting time math is hopeless. Functional protein folds sit in impossible sequence deserts. Fossils show sudden appearance and stasis, not transitions. Irreducible systems do not build themselves part by part.
All right, let's go over that again. All right, so they want to say, well, we just lack answers, give them more time. You can give another million years. You cannot create life from non-life. Rocks did not somehow come alive if they got, into water and the water mixer and the amino acids and all the other building blocks are just that. You need information. And the amount of electricity that would take, it's not a spark. You need to generate. And that's what they do in the laboratory. They hold the power down and they, just to make the amino acids tar. They just hold the pedal to the metal and they create this stuff. An intelligent being is creating something, the basic building blocks, and they can't see their own error because of their own ego.
That is not we lack answers. That is, the proposed answer breaks down at every step. The same applies to macroevolution. Mutations degrade genomes. Waiting time math is hopeless. Functional protein folds sit in impossible sequence deserts. Fossils show sudden appearance and stasis, not transitions. Irreducible systems do not build themselves part by part. Again, this is not a knowledge gap. This is a model falsified by observation. Science does not keep failed explanations on life support. Science replaces them. You accuse me of pulling answers out of a hat. No. I am pointing to the one cause that we already know can write code, build machines, direct assembly, and produce functional information, intelligence.
All right, so again, this is not a knowledge gap. This is the unwillingness to go to the simplest answer when you cannot, and all you have done for 150 years with all your satellites, with all your microscopes, DNA, and you still cannot show transitional animals. You look at a certain bird that looks part reptile, part bird, and say, oh, see? But what they fail to tell you, in that same digging, surrounded by this bird, was other life forms that should not have been there. They have a problem. But their problem is that they will not inform you of the negative, only on the things they think is positive toward their theology, their theory.
Again, this is not a knowledge gap. This is a model falsified by observation. Science does not keep failed explanations on life support. Science replaces them. You accuse me of pulling answers out of a hat. No. I am pointing to the one cause that we already know can write code, build machines, direct assembly, and produce functional information, intelligence.
Intelligent design, they treat that as a witch, like with cold water, or vampire with a cross. Vampires in the daylight. They would not go near it because it would undermine everything that they stand for in their ego and in their aloftness, in their lofty towers.
When the naturalistic path breaks at chemistry, physics, information theory, math, and the fossil record, the burden shifts. Not to more inquiry, to a new cause. Bad theories do not earn patience. They get replaced.
All right, we're going to go over that again. The naturalistic path. That's the only one they will use. They are refusing to go any other way, to see any other pattern that is beyond the naturalistic path. They won't even try to ascertain about it. Well, we can't measure God, okay, but you can see his footprint, you can see his handiwork, and it's certainly not going off this notion that non-life created life, and that this spark to the point where now we're going to say a multi-universe could be the reason for the fine-tuning, even though you have no scientific method for measuring it. You're creating myth to stay away from what you call us as myth believers. You're creating more myth to cover your tracks, and it's failing. The people are seeing it, but it's so many. Again, in TikTok, majority of the comments, probably like 99%, are negative, but that's fine. My job is to simply bring you the truth. I can bring you to the water. That don't mean I have to make you drink.
When the naturalistic path breaks at chemistry, physics, information theory, math, and the fossil record, the burden shifts. Not to more inquiry, to a new cause. Bad theories do not earn patience. They get replaced. Please like, share, and follow to learn more.
All right, just wanted to touch bases on that. Get back to my, where we at? There we go. So just wanted to touch bases on that. Thanks for dropping in. I hope you learned something. I hope and pray that you'll join me on this discovery as we walk together. If you disagree, let me know. Leave your comments, and I try to read all. I mean, on the TikTok, it's over 2,000 comments, but so I can't run down all 2,000 or more now, because it's 22,000 views on that one entry. So, but I got with many of y'all. If you would just look at some of the other comments that I made to the others, I answer y'all questions, maybe not to your liking, and it's comical. I have a PhD in public policy and administration with emphasis in criminal justice. It's a PhD. It's a PhD. The thing, what the layperson doesn't know, we all have to go through courses on the scientific method. That is all I'm using. I don't have to be a rocket scientist to put you to the test on this is science. This is narrative. This is science. This is narrative. Where you're landing at. So whether you like what I have to say or you don't like my stance, some say, well, I'm educated in theology. Not so, but I do like to study it. I'm more against theology than probably you are, because to me, too much of theology is phraseology, and it's too much of it is psychology, and then there's philosophy in it. So that being that, I hope to even jump on that. But right now, the bull I'm riding right now is abiogenesis and evolution. So thanks for tuning in, and God bless.